Shomolungma Sagarmatha, Holy Mother of the Sky. For the Sherpa people, the highest summits of the Himalayas have always been the realm of the gods. In 1953, Sherpa Tenzing Norgay committed the first sacrilege with Edmund Hillary by daring to ascend the summit of Everest. 25 years later, Pierre Mazot, Nicolas Jaeger, and I offend the gods in turn as the first Frenchmen to reach the top of the world. There can be no doubt that it is thanks to Tenzing that I realized my dream of touching the sky. I've often been around Sherpas, but I'd never really interested myself in the destinies of the men who contributed so much to the success of my climbs. This time, I decided to seek them out and follow in the path they had taken in becoming the true heroes of Mount Everest. Starting in Siliguri, I'll follow the path of Tenzing Norgay as he went in search of work in Darjeeling, like so many other Sherpas. Next, I'll follow the route that leads into the Indo-Nepalese frontier, crossing the hot plains of Terai to Jankapur and then the capital of Nepal. From Kathmandu, I'll fly to Lukla to follow in the steps of Tenzing right up to the foot of Mount Everest. Siliguri, 10 o'clock in the morning. The departure for Darjeeling is imminent. At a time when the ruling English in India were fleeing the heat of Calcutta, the lack of land suitable for cultivation in their territory forced many Sherpa families to leave their Himalayan valley. Like them, I climb on a train that will lead from the humid plains of Bengal to the cool, fresh foothills of the Himalayas. At the start of the 20th century, Nepal was a land forbidden to foreigners. The British launched their first reconnaissance expeditions to the roof of the world by coming from Tibet. Thanks to this small train, they were able to bring supplies up to Darjeeling at an elevation of 2,000 meters. I wind along the Tenzing Highway, named in honor of my hero of Everest. The spectacle here is as surprising to me as it must have been for the Sherpas. Breeders, farmers, or traders, they came here attracted by the economic development of the region and by the climate so much like that of their valley in Nepal. Darjeeling sprawls up into the heights. The city is sometimes gray under its sheet metal shell, undulating beneath tendrils of smoke that seem to be clinging to the bleachers of an enormous amphitheater. Curious about this strange mansion, I learned that it is the summer palace of Maharaja Kumar of Burdwan. I realize I want to meet this man.
We have been Maharajas for the last 16 generations. It's all history now. But we live in Darjeeling. Darjeeling was a part of that place. Out of the 4,100 square miles, a whole lot of areas in Darjeeling was also a part of the estate, which all went to the government in 1955 with the nationalization of land.
To my great surprise, the Maharaja actually knew Tenzing.
This is my father, and Tenzing Norgay, seeing him off from the Mountaineering Institute. Tenzing Norgay and his family we have known since I was a baby, when he was not even a famous man. I mean, he used to come here, we used to meet each other very frequently. He was a very wonderful person, he was. Very gentle, very kind. To have known the person personally and had known him so well, so intimately. And a person who achieved that sort of greatness is unforgettable.
As if by magic, the curtain of clouds breaks apart to reveal to me the third highest summit on the planet, Kanchenjunga. I can understand why the British, bewitched by these mountains, were so anxious to go further. They made their first attempts at the roof of the world with the help of Tenzing and many others employed as simple porters. But despite the help of the Sherpas who became veritable mountaineers, the British would never get to the summit of Everest from the Tibetan slopes. Today, the majority of the 100,000 inhabitants of Darjeeling are of Nepalese origin, although they all speak the Bengali language. I study the men and women here, and some are probably descendants of the Sherpas of Gumbu in the Everest Massif. In the image of this Hindu migrant, I continue my quest. But I'm not asking for alms. I just want to find someone who can tell me about Tenzing Norgay. It seemed like a simple task. Since Tenzing's death in 1986, his house has been occupied by his son, who has tried to maintain the color of the Himalayan snow so often trod by his father. But Tenzing Norgay is off on an expedition. The grandson, Tashi, lives in Australia. They tell me that the Sherpas are holding a reunion at a festival in town. Maybe I'll be lucky enough to meet someone who was close to Tenzing. The governor of Bengal honors the cultural richness of the different populations living in Darjeeling.
Wish them every success in their efforts to bring about a suitable and acceptable solution.
I am drawn to the mountain climbing equipment displayed like sacred objects in the space reserved for the Sherpas. The relics belong to a small man wearing a tweed cap. Nawang Gumbu is a member of Tenzing Norgay's family, the Tenzing clan. Nawang was the first man to climb to the summit 2 times. Those who have had high-altitude experiences often feel a connection, and he immediately invites me to his home.
I took 3 months.
At a young age, Nawang Gumbu dreamt of conquering the highest summits.
Sit down, very comfortable there. Okay, good. Come sit down there. Tenzing is my uncle, my mother's brother, and then he said that he is going to Everest expedition and he hiring Sherpa from Darjeeling. And I almost the first time, you see. Before that, I never been to higher mountain. And I said, please, I like to go to Everest with you. And he said, Gumbu, you are young, I'm 17 years old. And he said, I'll try my best to work hard. And then I went expedition, and then I went to South Col 2 times, no oxygen, carried 60-pound load. And that was my first expedition.
He really opened the route, Tenzing.
Yeah.
I think without him, we're not at the top.
Yes. He was very strong, no doubt. I know him very well. Oh, Tenzing, yes.
In Chamonix?
Yeah, Chamonix, long time ago,
First, my impression was we are very fortunate, good weather. I've been many times.
I've been many times.
He should say, this is my 7th time. He said many times, maybe more than. And after he climbed Everest, the whole world knows that is first nobody knows the Sherpa, after Tenzing said, I'm Tenzing Sherpa, He lives in Darjeeling in India, and then he climbed his big publicity and everybody respect, especially in Nepal. They think like he's a god, because 60, 70 years ago, nobody thought that Everest will climb by a human being. Which place you climb from, South Col or West Ridge?
South Col.
South Col, this
yeah.
route, same route,
Yeah,
the same route, no? Yeah. But you climb, your camp is here.
Yeah, we had to camp here.
You came here and climb and then come down, huh?
And you were twice.
I've been twice. This is 63 and 65 with the Indian team. Indian expedition, 65, yes.
And at the top also.
Yeah, top, yes.
And how was the weather?
Weather 1963 was not so good and 65 was good. I reached the summit 9:30 in the morning.
Twice at the top.
Long time ago. You've been the top too. You on the top of this
Yeah, but
mountain.
you twice.
Come and sit down. There's a coffee. This is 1963. President Kennedy, you know. This is me and the Kennedy.
No.
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah, the same photo.
It's you?
There, yeah.
You?
Yes. Very young. And Tenzing, of course. And after, oh yes, here's a Tenzing picture here. The Himalayan Tiger Medal. This was I got 1953. My number is 191. And those who are Sherpas have done very good job in the mountain. And after the British Alpine Club decided to we give some award.
But you think that you are a tiger?
At that time, no now. National Geography Medal, you know. American President Kennedy gave it to us, you know. This is I'm here. And the White House, that was 63.
I've shared a truly special day here with Nawang, one of the tigers of the Himalaya. But it can't last forever, and the flame that has revived so many memories recedes once again as the night begins to blanket Darjeeling. To me, this city is the home of its most famous citizen, Tenzing Norgay. But to the rest of the world, it is known for a certain popular hot beverage, the famous Darjeeling tea.
In Darjeeling, we have actually 4 different types of tea we have. Like one is called black tea, one is called green tea, one is called oolong tea, and one is called white tea. Black tea is the most famous tea from Darjeeling. This tea is the full fermented and very nice color and very good aroma. This is called black tea. If you want to think like this way, you know, first then drink it. You can feel the like, you know, aroma like that. You can see the white tea. This is a tea like only just the tips one. This is only just tips one. Only just sun dry and totally hand roll of this tea.
I admit that it's not often I finish the day with a cup of tea, and I hope that this relatively unfamiliar drink won't disturb my sleep on my last night in Darjeeling. This morning, my guide, Kishan, leads me towards the temple of Darjeeling, the land of the thunderbolt.
So this observatory hill was the place where we had the early settlement of the people in Darjeeling. So, and this temple here is called the temple of Mahakala. The Mahakala is supposed to be the protector deity. So when you went inside the main temple, there is one altar being worshipped by a Hindu priest as well a Tibetan Buddhist monk. So this is the only kind of the temple in India you will find. After the end of the celebration of their festival, the Losar, the beginning of the Buddhist New Year, so Sherpa Tenzing Norgay himself used to come along with his family to this temple to pray.
Once again, the shadow of Tenzing emerges. For him, as for all Buddhists, death is not an end to life, but rather a passage to another life. After this thoughtful meditation with the god of thunder, I abandoned the ghost of Tenzing to plunge for the last time into the orderly disorder of the city. Now I want to know more and go farther. I decide to get back on the road to continue following in the Sherpas' footsteps to the Darjeeling tea plantations. A few kilometers further on, as far as the eye can see, the hills are covered with tea plants. In the middle of the 19th century, the British planted tea in this region so as not to be dependent on Chinese production. The Sherpas represented a labor force perfectly adapted to these slopes, which are spread over 2,000 meters of altitude. Fascinated by the movements of these women, I learned that they must gather 35 kilos of leaves per day, which will produce 8 kilos of tea. Each of the year's 4 harvests provides the tea of Darjeeling with a particular quality. I interrupt the man in charge. How long does it take to make the tea?
It takes 2 days.
2 days.
Today, we gather the leaves, then we have to dry them. Then the stages of fabrication, fermentation, sorting, all the processes. Altogether, it takes 2 days to get a good quality tea that is ready to drink.
The leaves are dried and then rolled to liberate their essential oils. Next is screening, then drying again. Intoxicated by the odor of the tea, I'm in the place where it is finally sorted for quality. Whether green or black, the Darjeeling teas make a fortune for the planters. Sold in Europe, the best sell for as much as 1,000 euros per kilo. I try to get some more information. Surface of the plantation?
We have 436 hectares.
And the yearly production?
Our production is 300 tons.
And how many employees are there?
There are 1,400 employees.
1400.
Clearly, my questions aren't welcome. This sign doesn't mention that the gatherers earn 2 euros for 8 hours of work and that all the employees are paid half in cash and half in benefits. They're lodged and cared for at no cost to them, and their children study at a school financed by the plantation. 1,500 meters down, I pass by endless fields, all covered by the ubiquitous tea plants. Grown in these low plains, I'm surprised to learn that this tea shouldn't be called Darjeeling. The annual production from the fields of Darjeeling is estimated at only 11,000 tons. So by what miracle is the volume sold under that name typically at least 4 times higher? I'm now in rural India. Coming from the bustle and relative ease of Darjeeling, the change is brutal. I've got to get over my preconceived ideas about misery and adapt to the reality of daily life for these people. As I travel along, I try to really take in all of these colors, all of these smells, and all of these faces, which are preparing me to cross from one country to another without even feeling it. I'm still in India, but already in Nepal. The border is basically a line drawn on a map that runs along this straight strip of land. I roll through the Terai, and this region contradicts the vertical vision we have of Nepal. Like the Sherpas in their day, the suffocating heat encourages me to move along. But I'd rather calmly take in the landscape and breathe in the local lifestyle. I watch for the slightest movement on the expanse of water formed by damming the Koshi River. While the dolphins of the Ganges slip through the water, my curiosity is piqued by a strange ballet. Built in 1964, this dam was meant to hold back the floods of the monsoon season. But last year, torrential rains overwhelmed the whole region. The dikes designed to control the overflow ruptured, freeing enormous amounts of water.
Some people died. The dike was broken at 1:15 precisely. This all happened in the same day. In fact, it all happened between 1 and 2 p.m.
There was a lot of water?
Very much, very much. It came all the way up to here. Come this way. I'll show you. The water destroyed it all. Yes, just swept it all away. There used to be a lot of rice paddies here. Nothing was spared. Your house was taken? Yes, from here down to there, it was all swept away. I lost everything. And now it's very hard to find things to eat. So you built these houses after? Yes, of course. It was all gone, all destroyed.
Before there was a village, and due to the flood, all the village gone, and nothing else here. Right now, they don't have to eat rice, nothing. Okay, they don't have medicine, they have nothing. They are empty. Actually, they are expecting help. Okay, help is coming on the way and disappear anywhere. Yeah? From somebody took it out. Yeah.
Yanu, my guide, has quickly convinced me to make a donation to these villagers, and I leave moved by the story of their tragedy. After many long hours of travel, I wake up still in Nepal, in Jankapur. The atmosphere is unreal, steeped in the image of eternal India. Today, these Hindu pilgrims have invaded the town for the festival of Diwali, the festival of light for the Hindu New Year. Intrigued, I penetrate into the mysteries of this temple to Sita.
According to the legend of Ram and Sita, Sita had the purest soul of all the women in all of Nepal. Sita is well known in Nepal, and she is passed down into posterity. This temple to her is for eternity. In this temple, there is only one statue of Sita. It represents her divinity. If you come here with a pure soul, she can grant all your wishes.
During my voyage through the Terai, I purified my soul. I'm now ready to continue my trip by taking to the air. Soon I'll be back on the trail of my Sherpa friends. The peaks of the Himalayas surge up between the earth and sky, but I must already come down to land in Nepal's capital city. Today I find in Kathmandu the same frenzy that was bubbling in Jankapur, which I've just come from. Diwali, the Festival of Light, is still going. It will last for 3 days. An unexpected display. The young generation celebrates Diwali its way, not necessarily in step with Hindu traditions. This country has now been open to foreigners since 1950, and in just a few decades, the city has become a sought-after destination for tourists all over the world. Like me, they've come seeking the exotic spectacle that is present on every street corner here. Durbar Marg is nothing like the Kathmandu that I knew 30 years ago. The ancient royal square has been transformed into a vast market for tourists.
Some day interesting stuff, they like. They are making barking. Sometimes they are like they just want to see and they go trekking after trek back to buy. Nowadays, not good business. Before it was nice. Nowadays, many tourists but not good qualities.
Undoubtedly, it's the pollution and ear-splitting noise that caused those hoping to find tranquility to flee. But despite it all, the city is still captivating. I watched this sadhu, an Italian who must be one of the last representatives of those who took this road so long ago.
I'm asking you, life is nice? Your life is your life. My life is my life. Any life is life. Nice, no nice, ooh. Everybody same. No? Who different? Oh, no.
Seeing him lift himself up like that, I recall that I had the opportunity to reach nirvana by touching the sky at the summit of Everest. The Himalayan gods have offered to Nepal its sacred image of immense verticality.
Tenzing as a Sherpa, he opened the door. So that's how that for his all these Sherpa people who are working in this tourism field as a expedition climbing Sardar, Sherpa heights, and for them, I think he is the master. I think people come for Everest, and more than 40% people are repeated clientele. Himalayas are unique because such a vast range, like out of that almost 800 kilometer range which falls in the Nepal, and then out of 14 above 8,000 meter peaks, you find 8 in Nepal, I think, which you don't find anywhere else. There are about more than 300,000, almost 500,000 people are engaged in tourism. If there was no tourism, you can imagine that the consequence.
The friend who organized my trip brings me to the Thamel district. Because of the festival, all of the stores specializing in mountain equipment are closed. I discover Ang Serling, who is one of the new generation of Sherpas for whom Everest has become a gold mine. He's already brought clients to the summit 2 times.
The first time I went to the summit, it was a paradise up there. When I got there, my mind was a blank, really. I just enjoyed the view. I took some photos. The clients made a phone call by satellite. We stayed up there maybe a half an hour taking photos, and then we did the descent. That day, there were maybe 77 people up there.
77 people at the summit on the same day. What would Tenzing think? A half a century ago, climbing it at all seemed nearly impossible.
Sherpa Tenzing was really something special for us, because it's thanks to him that we can climb Everest.
I've come to Badnath to seek the protection of Buddha. Before leaving Kathmandu, I performed the ritual of the Sherpas to prepare me for my trip into the sacred world of high altitudes. Finally back on the trail once taken by myself and the very first conquerors of the roof of the world. Like the other passengers, I try to put a name to these snowy summits and peer out in the hopes of catching a glance of Everest. But we're still too low to spot the king of the Himalayas. At the Lukla Altiport, everything has changed. I was sure I could find a dirt path, just as I had 10 years ago with Pierre Mazot when we came back to celebrate the 20th anniversary of our Everest climb. We had been welcomed by Ang Galzin, who had accompanied us on our expedition back in 1978. Today I don't have the right to wear the welcome scarf, and our Sherpa Ang Galzin lost his life on the mountain. My guide Michel Pellet and I are hoping to find his wife to offer her a photo of her husband. She lives in a village a few hours' walk from Lukla. It's no dream. The 30 flights each day unload more than 500 people. Though Everest is a gold mine which is exploited by the Sherpas, I wonder about the impact of so many visitors on the lifestyle of the people who live here in the Gumbu Valley. Is the base camp trekking at Everest a victim of its own celebrity? I finally find tranquility. I accompanied Dolma, Ang Gozen's wife, to the monastery which was renovated with the help of several Sherpa families. I'm going to give Dolma the photo of Ang Galzin, taken during my expedition. Thanks to him, we were able to descend safely from the summit at Everest. He had placed 2 precious bottles of oxygen at 8,500 meters.
Last night, in dream, our dream, like his husband is coming, you know. So this afternoon, you showed this photo. That's exactly same, you know.
Thank you, Ang Galzin, for allowing me to touch the sky. In 1978, it took us, we and our Sherpas, more than 2 weeks of walking through monsoon rains in order to reach Namche Bazaar. Today, I was catapulted without transition from the hot valley of Kathmandu into a week-long march on Everest. I am now only a few minutes from the Sherpa capital. Once a trading post for caravans coming from Tibet, Namche Bazaar has grown by leaps and bounds. Thanks to Everest, this village, perched at 1,500 meters, is today the civilized base camp for climbers and expeditions. They have one single obsession: see and conquer the roof of the world. Tamang porters from the low valley now do the carrying in place of the Sherpas, who today have become the lords of the Himalayas.
They're carrying maybe 5 or 10 kilos. Look at them. When you see them behind you, wow, it puts things in perspective.
With surprise, I hear my mother tongue, Russian. How's it going?
Just fine. Where are you from?
We're French.
You're French? How is it that you speak Russian? We came from Kathmandu, then Lukla, and we arrived here. Today we climbed up to see the magnificent view. Tomorrow we leave for the Everest base camp.
At Namche, the Sherpas charge high prices for whatever you need to confront the extreme climatic conditions. Here, high elevation becomes big business.
They don't take from Kathmandu because of weight, and they buy here.
It's not too expensive?
It's expensive, yeah. We buy it from Kathmandu, and we have to take the things from plane, and from Lukla to here from Porter. That's why it's expensive. Yeah. These are antique. And when people go to climb Everest, they find like this stuff, and we buy from them. This one cost $300 US.
Local people from the Gumbu Valley sell their products and provision themselves at Namche. Having crossed over Nangpa La, a pass at an elevation of 5,715 meters, the Tibetans also come to bargain over products fabricated in China. 2 days of walking since Lukla have brought me to the doors of the Sherpa lands. 1 day of acclimation is necessary before I can continue along my path towards high elevation royalty. Just after leaving Namche Bazaar, I finally glimpse Everest. As always in the mountains, an optical illusion makes it seem less high than the face of Lhotse, which blocks the valley. For more than a century, those from the West have wanted to get a close look at the mysteries of this supposedly unattainable place. Trekking has provided yet another income source for these mountain dwellers. Carrying the packs of foreigners drawn here by the myth of Everest has become more profitable than accompanying a salt caravan and has generated many new jobs. For his part, Pasang has fulfilled Tenzing's dream. Now 25 years old, he reached the summit at Everest for the first time when he was 18.
Hello. Namaste. Yeah. Are you okay? Yeah. I've been 5 times, but 4 times from south side and 1 time from the north side, Tibet side. But it's not quite easy because this, in 8,000 mountain, always the weather changes in every 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So if we have a bad weather, it's very difficult. In 2006, that time we are the first team to make a route and to climb the summit. So that time we reached in nearly 3:30. most of people, we are going to the French Chamonix, and we are getting a training from there, and some people coming here to give the training. So nowadays, people is a little different from the before. So now people is a guide. As a guide, they are going to climb a mountain. Before they are going to for the porters only.
You're back to Lukla?
Yeah, I'm going back to Lukla in case of my trip to Ahmedabad.
You're going to Ahmedabad?
Yeah, next trip.
So a group?
Yeah, only one client.
Only one client?
Yeah.
So it's good?
Yeah, it's, because one client is quite easy.
Like Pasang, I too became a high mountain guide at a young age. So I can understand the strong desire that most mountain professionals have to link paid climbs as closely as possible. Much less loaded down than this porter, I reached 3,800 meters elevation at Tengbosch. The monastery in the village, a veritable beacon in Buddhist culture, is the largest in the Gumbu region. It is busy at the afternoon puja devotional. In the Himalayas, everything requires the favor of the gods, and their blessings are needed before continuing on your way. As if by magic, the incantations pull back the veil hiding Everest. Tonight I make a stop at the home of a very special Sherpa. Migma Norbu is an entrepreneur, and his lodge welcomes 40 people per day. Expedition after expedition, Migma has accumulated a veritable treasure, the vestiges of an era in the history of the conquest of Mount Everest.
This axe belongs to my uncle, who just passed last year. He's last Sherpa from Everest, 1953. He was with the Swiss expedition also. Sherpa use these shoes for base camp or camp 1 during that time. They don't have good shoes. This jacket here, also from 53. It's made out of cotton. This is the Hillary oxygen bottle from 1953. They use for summit. In Gumbu, you go everywhere. There's nothing like that. Nobody has it. So I just keep for memory for our children, for Sherpa children.
As I leave Migma, I can't resist crossing this old Himalayan bridge, which is a vestige from the time of my first voyages here. I try to measure the evolution of this valley, which now depends so heavily on communications facilities. Since Tenzing's expedition, the increased tourist traffic in Gumbu has allowed the renovation and securing of all the bridges and widening of the paths. Michel Pellet has been involved in the development of the valley at Everest for 30 years. This French guide has put together several commercial expeditions, and he was one of the first to take clients up to the roof of the world. His friend Sherpa Galzin is one of those who has taken the initiative up here in the extreme high altitudes.
Fine. Okay.
Galzin and Michel are old friends. They've been up on Everest together 5 times.
You have a good chang here, no?
Chang is no.
It's not the season.
Now no making chang.
No making chang.
No,
Okay.
no Rexin, no whiskey,
Okay. Sorry. That's yes. Okay.
Between base camp and the valley west of Everest, the icefall is a passage full of twisting turns, but necessary in order to get access to the summit. The Sherpas have decided to equip it to save time for expeditions whose numbers never seem to stop increasing. Michel Pellet has filmed Galzin. The man they call the roadmender of Everest installed and maintains the ladders which serve as bridges across the crevasses. The risks incurred completely justify the remuneration he receives from his Sherpa friends. Galzin implores the gods to forgive this violation.
Ice wall, finish.
How long you stay on the ice wall?
10 years.
10 years.
And 2000 springs also.
2000 is finished.
Yes, I make.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Galzin is not only the roadmender of Everest, he is also the Lama of Pangbosh, and some say this is what has protected him in the icefall. As I continued my leisurely progress towards Le Boucher, I didn't expect to find a hurried crowd of trekkers. The Sherpa Dawa has adapted the notoriety of Everest into a new Western fad, the high-altitude marathon.
I've organized a class in my region, in the region of Everest, that has nothing to do with summit climbing. It is another way of discovering things. A few years ago, I thought I'd climb the summit like all the other Sherpas. But I lost a lot of friends up on Everest. And when Babu Shiri died, I decided to enjoy Everest from a distance. Because Babu Shiri was a childhood friend. We were very, very close. When he died up there, I said, I'm done with that now.
Even in the extreme, the high-altitude experience is different for everyone. I prefer to walk slowly, if possible, in solitude. Dawa lost his best friend, Babu Shiri, on Everest. We arrive at a sacred spot, the Chortens, erected in the memory of all the lost Sherpas.
This one is Babu Shiri. He was on his way to a great career. He'd already done Everest 2 times. He beat the speed record on Everest. He died, it was stupid really, on the West Col. There was a crevice. They pay a high price to do this job. They earn a good living, but many of them lose their lives. Sadly, most of the bodies are lost on the mountain. This one is Dawa Dorji Sherpa. He died in 1982.
Like all my companions, I penetrate to the heart of the sanctuary of Everest. We try to save our breath climbing up to Nirvana for all trekkers, Kalapatar. At an elevation of 5,600 meters, we'll have a panoramic view.
Wow. C'est super. C'est super, c'est super.
It's a childhood dream to get close to this majestic, mythic mountain. Of course, there's a big difference between doing this and getting to the summit. And I know I'll never get there, but it's still wonderful to get close to it like this.
That's when you really appreciate how brave these men are. Really, you have to give credit to the Sherpas. Without them, nobody would be climbing here.
In 1952, Tenzing was the first to find, with the Swiss, the passage through this formidable cascade of ice. 1 year later, the British invaded the realm of the gods and invented the myth of Everest. Thanks to Tenzing, the inhabitants of Gumbu took their destiny in hand. In 1978, with the help of all our Sherpa friends, I had 90 minutes of absolute bliss at the summit, along with Pierre, Kurt, and Nicolas.
Ouais, vive l'Everest. Magnifique. On sera quand même bien content d'avoir du thé au col sud. Hein. Voilà, vitement. Des litres. Allez. Mais que c'est beau.
My voyage on the path of the Sherpas from Darjeeling was achieved on these sacred slopes. I now know that the story began by Tenzing continues to be written, thanks to Pasang, Dawa, and many others. All of these men are to me the real heroes of Everest. Having become climbers by accident, they are above all Sherpas, the confidants and guardians of the Holy Mother of the Sky.